3, 2, 1.
Greetings from very hot Cape Town. The last time I was saying to Cape Townians, come to Gauteng for a very good weather because it was stormy here and rainy, but now, today we are in an oven. It's hot. It's hot. But welcome, it's good to be back home with you. Dumela bagaitso, goeienaand, so lekker om met u te wees vanaand. Sanibonani bazalwane. As always, I am not alone. I am with my co-pilot, the Honorable Wayne Thring, who will be doing the greetings before we go ahead. And let him come on and let's hear what he has to say. My broer, Wayne Thring, there's no eat cans iets te say. Goeie mensen. God bless you.
Goeienaand, meneer die president. Het is lekker om jou weer te zien. Ons is so bly dat die Here jou bewaar het van die land van Germany. So glad to have you back. Before I run out of Afrikaans, let me just say how glad we are to have you back with us. And so looking forward to hearing from you, sir. To those who have joined us, again, we want to say thank you for coming through and joining us on this ACDP live streaming. So appreciate your support. As we head up towards 2024, we've got to put our shoulders to the wheel and do everything that we can to ensure that the ACDP becomes the government of the day. Remembering that South Africa needs the ACDP and the ACDP needs you. God bless, President. And again, glad to have you back, sir.
Thank you very much. Who is with us tonight? Let's hear the greetings before we tell you what will be happening tonight. We have Cas van der Bijl-Meth, who's saying, good evening, Mr. President, Deputy President Wayne Thring, and fellow ACDP family, all the way from Port Shepstone in the Ugu district. Welcome, say. Kristen Holland Ramsey, good evening, Reverend Mishwe, leadership and ACDP family. And Marianne Lotta, she should be our timekeeper, always on time. Good evening, President and ACDP family. And Lance Grootboom family watching from Utenik in the Eastern Cape. Welcome, sir. Palesa Yates, Dumela Murutimi Shwe, all the way from Ekurhuleni, Gerhardus. Good evening to you. ACDP Limpopo saying good evening, Mr. President, and our leaders and ACDP family. Mary Akrasi Boateng, good evening, our blessed President and the entire family. Good evening, ma'am. Wonki Ngoko, evening, President. My apology, I always say, Nyabaiza. When it comes to that one, Nyabaiza. Co-pilot and ACDP family. Evening, President, co-pilot and ACDP family. Pastor Melody Maseko. A blessed evening, Mr. President and DP and the ACDP family. Arise, ACDP. Arise. The Lord bless you. So good to have you all with us tonight. I'm so glad to be back home. I'm told things went very well last week. I just came back from Germany on Sunday. I had planned to be the first to give you the report, but I understand one of our panelists is having load shedding at 8 p.m. So I'm not sure whether he's here already. If he's here already, okay. There is Councillor Ronald Harris. He's going to tell us about what is happening regarding the Zama-Zamas that we are told are heavily armed to an extent that even the police are scared to venture into the underground illegal mining that is taking place because of these people that are heavily armed. And obviously, you'll have to give us ideas and advice of what to do. What should we say to council? What should you say to government? How to deal with this matter? Because it is totally unacceptable for the police to be scared to police every inch of ground in the country, whether on land or underground, but it is totally wrong for government to fail to deal with such people, okay? We believe when God gives us an opportunity, we'll make South Africa safe. We definitely will make South Africa safe. We are not friends with criminals. On Khanele Baya Arslan. Because we are not friends with criminals. But before I take more of his time, Councillor Harris, what is happening? I thought you are able to get those guys in order. What's happening? Are you failing to get the police in order? Or what's happening? Please tell us. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. President. Good evening to you. Good evening, DP, and to the entire ACDP family. Good evening to you. I think this Zama-Zamas has been an ongoing battle for many, many years now. We must remember that the mines are all owned by various companies, whether they be from Canada, Australia, China. Some of them are operating, some of them have been abandoned. And when they abandon mines, they don't rehabilitate them. Remember, I think one of President Zuma's nephews was involved in a mine in Benoni somewhere, and they just abandoned the mine without rehabilitating it. And that created an opportunity for illegal miners, whether they're from Lesotho, Mozambique, Zimbabwe. Those seems to be the favorite sources of illegal miners. They have taken over inactive and active mines, stretching right from Springs in the east to the west, Randfontein. And there are mines dotted all over the show. And these guys have been running riot for the last 30 years with no control at all. You must remember something, and we you know, they've been talking about the apartheid days and how things were so bad, but there was control in those days. People could not go and scratch and dig and do whatever they want to with no supervision and no permission and all of that stuff. But we're living in democracy now, and people have come from all over the world, and they're tackling South Africa, because you must remember, Zama-Zamas are just the bottom end of the scale. It's organized crime that is running this thing. So you have people from India, China, some Jewish people. All of them are in that value chain of the Zama-Zamas, buying the processed gold from them. Now, what has happened is that when we were still in council, I know that MLC David Tembe had been putting together a plan to have a specialized force within the Johannesburg Municipal Police to deal specifically with Zama-Zamas. But when we were ousted, I think that plan fell flat as well. But what happens now is that when you've got cases of people being killed, the girls that were violated so badly in Krugersdorp, you have a knee-jerk reaction by the authorities. And then they come out with all the guns and horses and donkeys and helicopters and everything, show some activity for a couple of days, and then they're gone again. So I think what happens here, Mr. President and ACDP, is that we need to be looking at saying, what is it that we're going to be doing as the ACDP family to tackle this issue? Now, I think from a legal point of view and a legislation point of view, the mining is actually controlled by the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Act. And that act stipulates who can do what, where, and how. But we've also now, over these last 30 years, seen people in active mines and inactive mines, and as I said, where they've abandoned them, those acts have really just fallen by the wayside, and nothing has happened about being able to tackle these zamazamas in a more coordinated manner. Now, what some of the mines have been doing, the active mines particularly, who are members of the Minerals Council, they have their own security guards, and these security guards, even though they're heavily armed, they cannot tackle these zamazamas because these guys are armed with AK-47s, the whole range of firearms that they have. They even have explosives at their disposal. How they can get hold of it in this time when we're supposed to be having a police force that is has an intelligence department, we can't answer that one. But what is it that we need to do? I think there's the artisanal and small-scale mining policy that came out in 2022. Now, this was supposed to regulate, according to the minister, supposed to regulate small-scale mining. That means that people who are living close to an abandoned mine or a mining area are able to get a license, and they are able to work those mines in a more professional or a more legalized way, so to speak. But in the meantime, that act hasn't been able to be implemented. And I think this is the big challenge we have, is that we've got fantastic policy, but no implementation of these policies. And the way to go forward, in my opinion, is that we need to looking at the Mineral Council, and they've got various bodies that they work with to be able to deal with what is happening within the mining environment. So you've got the security section, and you've got a section that is supposed to be looking at communities and developing the social and economic opportunities within these mines. So I believe that there is a way for the ACDP to look to the Mineral Council, particularly going to Minister Gwede Mantashe. I believe is going to be a futile exercise, because I believe, and again, I've got no evidence to back it up, but I think that they are in cahoots with these zamazamas, that there's some serious money changing hands. Just to give you an example, in River Lee from Fordsburg, if anybody were to know it, Fordsburg is on the east and Orlando west. There's a stream that is flowing there, and it's estimated that in that stream, depends on who you're talking to. Some people estimate the mining company, DRD, that manages that area, says there's 6 billion rands worth of minerals in that stream. The River Lee community are saying those people are lying, there's 60 billion rand of minerals lying in that stream. And people are digging and doing whatever they want when it's uncontrolled. So the country is losing on revenue, on foreign exchange, all of those things. So what we need to be doing is to go to the Mineral Council and say to them, as the ACDP, we want to be the champion of communities, to try and find out from them how are they going to develop the communities. Firstly, to ensure that those mining areas are made safe. Secondly, to ensure that the people who would want to get involved in mining are trained up. And thirdly, to ensure that the regulatory environment is well taken care of on behalf of the communities. Now, I think our big challenge that we're going to be facing is how do we deal with the illegal miners, the guys that are coming from Lesotho and Mozambique and Zimbabwe? How do you get them out of the system? And unfortunately, Mr. President, this is where I leave you and the DP to come up with that idea. I've got my own idea in terms of saying, well, let us tax the countries that these guys are coming from. For every one that we catch here in the country, we charge them, we fine them 100,000 rand, you know. But then again, I'm not a legal person, so I don't know how legal that business is. But be it as it may, I think there is a solution, Mr. President. If we put our heads together and looking at existing legislation, we certainly can make a difference. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for that report and the proposals that you have given. And members, as you listened and realize how serious the problem of lawlessness is, because it boils down to lawlessness, because we have a government that is not just unable, but I think they are unwilling to bring in law and order. They are unwilling to arrest the perpetrators and those who are breaking the law left and right. And as the Councillor Harris said, there are some politicians who are benefiting from what the Zamazamas are doing. That's why they're reluctant to stop them, because if there is a will, definitely those guys can be stopped. And it will be one of the promises the ACDP will make, that give us the privilege, because it is a privilege, not a right, to govern this country. Will make sure that all those people are sent packing back home. When people are saying we are living in a democracy, democracy doesn't mean lawlessness. Democracy doesn't mean everybody should do what they want when they want. There has to be order, and that order must be insisted upon, as the ACDP is saying today. So we're going to trust the Lord to help us to get to that place where we make South Africa safe again. So thank you very much, sir. And those who also have other ideas, who are listening to what the Councillor Harris was saying, please write to us. Write to the communications department, and they will give you an email to use, so that, okay, they say email your comments to info@acdp.org.za. Please email your comments and your proposals. All right. Having heard what Councillor Harris said, I'm sure you are keen to hear what happened on our trip to Germany. It was a very encouraging and enlightening and educative trip. We learned valuable lessons. Who organized the trip? How did we end up going there? There is a German non-governmental organization called Konrad Adenauer Foundation that is involved, among other things, in education processes in South Africa, particularly politically. So they invited 6 political parties on a trip. We left on Saturday the 7th and came back Sunday the 15th. 6 parties were invited. 5 are in parliament and 1 is not in parliament yet, maybe. So I'm going to give you the names in alphabetical order. Now, if we talk about alphabetical order, ACDP is number 1. All right? But maybe before I give you the parties that went there and who represented them, the invitation was to party leaders. 4 members or 4 leaders who went there were members or are members of parliament, and 1 is a member of the legislature in KZN. Now, what happened was the ACDP was led by this gentleman speaking. If my late wife was here, she would have said, the most handsome young man in the world. All right. Now that's the one who led the ACDP. I represented the ACDP on the trip. And then we had the Action SA. Action SA was represented by their national chairman, Michael Beaumont. I asked him, where is your leader, Herman Mashaba? He said, no, he's on holiday with his family in the Middle East. So Ndade Machaba could not go because he was in the Middle East enjoying the sun and the nice weather there. I understand. Okay, and then thirdly, we had Bosa, Build One South Africa, led by Mmusi Maimane. He was the only person, who went there. Well, not the only person, who was not a member of parliament. Even Action SA leader is not a member of parliament. Now, members of parliament, it was myself, and then the Democratic Alliance was led by the leader, John Steenhuisen, and then Freedom Front Plus was also led by their leader, Dr. or Honorable Peter Groenewald, and the Inkatha Freedom Party was also led by their leader, who is an MPL, Honorable Velinkosi Tlabisa. All right, we were 6 in total. Now, the lessons we learned there the trip stemmed out of the fact that coalition governments in South Africa are not very successful. Even though they are at local level now, but they are not successful. They are collapsing. Service delivery is very, very poor. And as we are listening to different speakers and facilitators, we could tell, this is where we are going wrong. This is where we are going wrong. And we are going to try and improve our performance, improve by insisting on the fundamentals. The first fundamental that the Germans said to us, if you want your coalition to succeed, particularly if you're willing to learn from a nation or a country that has had or was ruled by a coalition government since the Second World War. After the Second World War, Germany has never had one ruler or one party governing. It was just coalition government. As a result, you can understand when we say they are among the best experience in the world. So they said the first important thing is trust. You must trust one another. You cannot go into a coalition that will be successful if there is no trust. Just like you cannot go into a marriage relationship without trusting the people or the person you go into that relationship with if there is no trust. So they all emphasize the importance of trust. They even said that when discussions are made, agreements are made. One of the agreements is what is discussed in the meeting should not be leaked out if you are told this is confidential. It should not leak out. You know, in South Africa, many times parties meet, coalition partners meet, they discuss whatever they discuss, and before you have lunch or dinner, the media has the story. Why? Because there are some people who are not trustworthy. And we ask the question, what do you do when you have partners or people who cannot be trusted? Okay, we'll not go into what they said, but the first important thing they said, there must be trust. And the second important thing they said there must be respect. These people who want to work together must respect each other. You cannot treat each other like you are. One is a nothing, one is stupid, and so on. You must trust each other. Okay, so trust, number one, and secondly, to say you must respect each other's opinions. Even though you agree, you disagree, the way you disagree, you do it respectfully and not disrespectfully. Okay, now thirdly, they said commitment. There needs to be commitment. If all parties are committed to make their relationship and partnership or coalition successful, all things are possible. There has to be commitment to make it work. Now, the interesting question we asked there was, what do you do if one of the partners is unhappy about something and they just decide, I'm leaving this group, these coalition partners, I'm joining another group? They said, you don't easily do that, because if you do that, then there are going to be fresh elections. Fresh elections must be called. Why? Because that government has failed. So you cannot just jump and go there, next time jump and go there, as we see happen in South Africa. In South Africa, there is even a party that says, whoever gives me what I want, I'll go with them. Make me a good offer. And obviously, when we said this, they said, no, 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 no. Here is not a good offer for a political party or a person, but it is bringing good services to communities, to the public. They said the public will judge you harshly if you put yourself and your personal interest first. And South Africa desperately needs this one. They said, because if you put yourself first, you will not be considered for elections. And if a government, a coalition government collapses because of you, people will know it is because of his selfishness, because of his greed that this thing happened. And so when there are re-elections, you'll be left out. So commitment to work well with your colleagues. Then the fourth one, which was to us very interesting, they said they are operating on the basis of flexibility, meaning that the national leaders can agree to work together in government because of agreements that they have. They said, but in the same party, some of those who are at the lower level might not be as easy to work with like those on national level. So, for as long as they keep true to their values and their policies and principles, on different levels, they allow different coalitions. You may find that on national level, Party A is has a working relationship with Party C. But on the lower level or another level, state, provincial, or municipal level, then Party A is working with Party E. Why? Because they are not seeing eye to eye on the ground level as on the national level, they see eye to eye. That's why they say they are flexible. They are flexible. They just agree that we are going to work this way. And if there's no agreement at the bottom, they go ahead and leave the bottom to solve their problems. The guiding lines being the policies, the principles, and the values. So we have learned very good lessons. They said, when you go out or when you go back home, please reach out to other people. For me, personally, a good lesson, which was personal, came from the first female mayor of in Kiel. That was the second city went to Kiel. The first women mayor. Among others, as we were talking about corruption and that, I asked the question. I was surprised when she said, hey, Reverend, okay? She knew who I was. Reverend, please, my advice to you is, do not throw all ANC members in jail. Don't jail them all. That would be a big mistake, she said, because you need experience of some of the guys within that ruling party that is corrupt. I mean, she said, there are those who are participating quietly. Why? Because they don't have the guts to say no. But within themselves, they are not corrupt. Find those skilled people that you can redeem or assist to overcome their weaknesses. So she said, Reverend, please, don't throw them all in jail. She was prophesying. It was like she was prophesying. Because she said, if you throw them all out to start with a new team altogether, it's going to fail. She said, I've been in government. We have been in government for many years. She's on pension. We've been in government for many years. You are going to fail. You need experience. Obviously, if some people might say, I have a problem with that, look at the ANC. Why has the ANC failed? I was told by some in the ANC that pre-1994, Mr. Mandela advised them, guys, we don't know anything about government. The National Party knows. Why not bring them in and allow them to mentor our people? The comrades refused. They rejected that. They said, it is our time to eat now. And then Mr. Mandela insisted that when it comes to finances, he insisted the former finance minister, Derek Keys, has to continue in that portfolio, and then Trevor Manuel will become his understudy. He will mentor Trevor Manuel. We all know when Trevor Manuel finally became the finance minister, she did very well. Sorry, he did very, very well. Trevor Manuel was one of the best finance ministers we've had. Why? Because he learned from an experienced person. So ACDP members, I know what's going on in some of your heads right now. Experience. If you don't want to repeat the mistakes of the ANC, then heed advice from those who have been in government for more than 30 years. Okay? I saw somebody said, good advice. For me, definitely that's good advice. The Nuko also says, I agree with her. ACDP needs their experience. Okay, so let us know that we have learned and we are going to apply some of the things we have learned. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have to change gifts, change gears, change the direction we're taking now. I'm going to call on a person who's not a stranger to us, although she's now based in the US, Olga Washington. Olga Michelle Washington. When we left, she was on the way to, when the bombs were flying, the rockets were flying in Israel, she was on the way to Israel. On the way to Israel. She landed when shooting was taking place. But God cared. You know, when I heard the story, I said, how faithful is our God? So I asked her to come on board to tell us, why did she go to Israel at that critical time? She went there, maybe just to tell you, to receive a prize. She won a prize. What prize did she win? And why did she win that prize? Okay, Olga, please come on, tell us what prize you won, why did you win the prize, who did you beat, and so on. And welcome again. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. President. Good evening, Dad. Good evening to everybody that is watching. It's always a blessing to be able to contribute to everything that the ACDP is doing. ACDP's voice is much needed. Its clarity, the truth is much needed. So as Mr. President has just shared, I was nominated as the #1 of 25 young people across the globe for their work in the space of Zionism, for their work in speaking up the truth as well as educating for Israel. And this award or this position is as a result of, at the moment, 3 things that I do, 3 hats that I wear. The first one, I have to give props to Daisy as well as the ACDP, because that's where it all started. The truth that we were able to not only be taught, but also to teach others and are continuing to do. Thank you, ACDP, for your continued stance in relation to Israel, standing for the truth. So the work that I used to do there and a little bit still do, we need to revive that. But then the second hat that I wear is as the board member of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. Many of you may remember my father-in-law, Pastor Dumisani Washington, and also my husband, Joshua Washington. They speak a lot, they do a lot of things, and I'm involved behind the scenes, also helping in terms of strategy and speaking. And then the main role that I now wear is actually what my job is, and that is as the Chief Operating Officer of a nonprofit organization here in the United States. In that regard, I'm second in charge, and I help with all of the operations and the strategy for this organization that primarily focuses on educating Jewish teens on their Jewish identity, on the truth about Israel, and as it pertains to Jews anywhere in the world, their connection to the state of Israel, because that's where their ancestry is from, but also around the Middle East conflict. We teach them about the different wars. We teach them about the reestablishment of the state of Israel in 1948. We teach them about the failed attempts for the Palestinians of their own failed leadership to get a state and what that means, and BDS politics and anti-Semitism, modern anti-Semitism. So there's a full curriculum that the teens go through. We also empower them with teaching them how to write, teaching them how to speak, teaching them how to debate. And so my work in these three areas led the Jerusalem Post, which is a prominent Israeli news outlet, as well as JNF, which also stands for the Jerusalem National Fund in the United States, to recognize the work that I do and have me as number one. So there was an awards ceremony that was organized for October the 9th. And so I got on an airplane on Friday night. And part of the testimony actually started when I was getting on the airplane. I posted on my Instagram as well as my Facebook that I'll see everybody in Tel Aviv, that I was on my way for the award ceremony. And a few moments after posting, the CEO of JNF, which, as I mentioned, was one of the organizations that was organizing the award ceremony, reached out to me on Facebook and said, "What are your details? When are you flying?" And it turned out that he was flying from New York together with his wife, and I was flying from Washington, D.C., and we were going to be landing in Israel at around the same time. And so he said to me, "Here is my telephone number. Let me know if you need anything." On the airplane, sleeping, wake up, maybe about 30 minutes after waking up, the pilot makes an announcement to say, "We're not sure if we're going to land, but it seems as if we will keep you updated." And that was a summary of the announcement. Myself, together with the passengers that I was sitting next to, were very confused. We're like, what is he talking about? Why will we not land? And it's at that point that I got on my phone. There was Wi-Fi in the airplane, so I was able to connect. And we realized that there was war, that a war had started just a few hours. And it was likely that the airport was going to be closed down. At that point, we didn't fully understand the gravity and the evil of what was taking place in Israel with Hamas, but we knew that there was something very serious taking place. And so about 45 minutes out from our scheduled time to land, the pilot said, "We've got clearance from Ben Gurion, which is the airport in Tel Aviv. We're going to land. We wish everybody safety." We're like, okay, what does this mean? So we landed, and you could definitely get a sense of people very concerned, people very nervous, because it was relevant or becoming more and more known that Israel was in a war, and in a war that Israel had not seen since its reestablishment. For those of you that have been following the news, the number of people that were killed in the first day of the war is greater than the number of people that were killed in one day since the Holocaust. I mean, it's just totally evil. So landed, I contacted the CEO of JNF. His name is Russ Robinson. And I said to him, I said, "Are you here? Have you landed?" And he mentioned that he had just landed. And I still had peace. I really did still have peace. It was like, what's going to happen? But there was still peace. And God ensured that just as we were exiting the customs area, I bumped into him and his wife. And from that moment, God in his providence, they took care of me as if I was their own daughter. I was supposed to be staying at another hotel, and they said, "No, you're going to be," in fact, I wasn't supposed to be staying in a hotel. I was supposed to be going to Jerusalem to stay with some friends. But it was dangerous. They were not encouraging anybody to be on the road. And so he said, "No, you're going to come with myself and my wife, and we're going to take care of you." They booked a hotel room at their hotel. God in his providence, it was the last available hotel room for the next 2 days. So I was with them there. And in about 2 hours after we checked in, it was my first time to hear a siren. I've heard sirens on the news. I've heard sirens on the apps. But hearing a siren for yourself is something that is scary, and wouldn't recommend it for anybody. I've never been in a war before. I don't know what it means when you have a siren in terms of the urgency of it. I've heard about it, but not experienced it, like I said. And so Olga hears a siren. There's also the intercom goes off and says, "All right, everybody, you need to get to the bomb shelter." Bless my heart. I'm packing up my bags and I'm getting my suitcase out until I realized, no, there's no time to do this. And in a period of about an hour and a half, there was 3 sirens that went off. And every single time you have to run down either to the bomb shelter. And if you can't get to the bomb shelter in time, you have to wait in the stairwells and the staircases. And so to experience that with a lot of people was very alarming, as one can experience. And then the next day, staying with Russell and his team, even before I go there, let me maybe share that one of the amazing things about Israelis and about the Jews is their refusal to be fearful of death. Even in the midst of death, They want to be helpful. They want to be productive. They want to go out. In fact, the scripture that now comes to mind is, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. And even for those that may not be believers, but there's definitely, at least for me and the team that I was with, a sense of we still have work to do and we still have peace. And I know that for me, there was a sense of peace and a covering, knowing that God brought me there and he was going to protect and keep me. And on that note, I also want to thank everybody that was praying. So in the next 2 days, the Sunday and the Monday, we were on the ground helping with resources, helping with supplies for people that were not only injured, but that had lost everything. Again, God providing. I was due to come home on the Thursday via United Airlines, but we had a sense that the airlines were going to all close down because many of them had already started to shut down and say they're not flying into Israel anymore. But El Al, which is the Israeli airline, it was said that it was going to be one of the last airlines to fly unless government closed everything down. So on Sunday, was on the telephone, again, organized by Russell and his team to get me on a flight that would leave the country. South African passports, we don't have as easy access in terms of transiting through various countries. But by God's grace, I was able to get on a plane to leave Israel on Thursday afternoon via Ireland. And so there I was going to then be in Israel in a war for at least 5 more days. And in those days, I was in a bomb shelter 10 times with little children, with old people. I mean, it is terrible what is happening. It is terrible the fear that happens when you hear the siren. I heard the Iron Dome for myself as well. We thank God for this incredible technology that saves lives, For those that are wondering, why are there so many Gazan casualties versus Israeli casualties in previous wars, and even now as there's going to be a ground insurgent, it is because Israel does what it can to protect its civilians. I experienced it firsthand. It uses its resources, it uses its money to create systems that will protect its civilians. Whereas Gaza, Hamas uses its civilians to protect itself. It uses its civilians to bring up the death count so that it can present to the world, here are all of the people that are dying, but it's their fault. So again, was in the car, was not fearful. I also thank God for the upbringing that I had from my parents, being able to stand on the word of God, being able to pray, to know the truth of the word of God, to be able to stand on his promises. And in all of those days, God kept me safe. Sirens, no sirens, bomb shelters, no bomb shelters, until the moment that I left Israel on Thursday afternoon and then arrived back in America on Friday night. And so for that, I say, to God be the glory.
Amen. To God be the glory.
Amen.
We are grateful to God for that testimony. I'm sure many people were blessed. Okay, Nora Tinyuko says, whoa, what an encouraging testimony. We thank God that fear was not your portion.
Amen.
Okay.
I mean, but there was... Sorry,
okay,
Mr. President. I think there was definitely moments of frustration. Like what's going to happen and how, but no fear, for which I thank God.
Yeah, no, we are grateful to God for that. Maybe I must just throw in one thing about the Jews, the Israelis, that I heard about that surprised me. During the days of suicide bombers, whenever an Israeli would be injured and a Palestinian terrorist would also be injured nearby, when the medical team would come, the rescue team would come, they would always take the most injured, even if it's a terrorist who blew himself to kill the Jews. If the terrorist was the more injured person, they would leave their own and take care of the very person who wanted to kill them. I mean, this blows my mind. I still don't understand that, but they are doing that. It is true that the Jews, no matter what people are saying, most of them are lying, and the South African government is lying. The president of South Africa is lying, because those people, they first send out notices. Law-abiding citizens get to safety. We are going to bomb, we are going to shoot, we are going to do this at this time or that time. So everybody get out of the way. We are not after you, we are after Hamas. And even this time, they have said the same thing. People have been told to move southwards. So they are moving southwards. The United Nations is discouraging that. They say, no, it's going to be a human catastrophe. So what do they want? Should those innocent people die? They have postponed their attacks. Why? Because they want to clear Gaza, the northern Gaza, of all the innocent people, mothers and fathers. Whereas Hamas, they use them as human shields, as Olga has said. So friends, the last thing maybe I should say, Olga, thank you very much for being with us again.
Thank you very much.
ACDP is unapologetically standing with Israel. Remember Genesis 12:3. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. So even though we are attacked and criticized, we worry not. We stand for what we believe. We believe what God has said about Israel. That is his land. Now, the last thing I read, I don't know whether Olga can confirm this or whether Olga said this. I saw, whether it's a wish or it's a reality, that the Prime Minister of Israel has told the UN, has shown the United Nations a new map, a map of Israel without Gaza. I'm not sure if it is true. How is that going to happen? But that is what I saw today. Those people, the world is screaming at them. They're saying, we're going to get at you. Russia is coming. China is coming. They don't fear. They say, we have a job to do. We are not going to tolerate these Hamas individuals, terrorists who want to kill us. For those who are sympathetic, because I understand that there are some pastors and Christians who are now shifting sides. And when I was the DP told me about this earlier on, I said to the DP, those pastors must be told to go back and read their Bibles. They must learn to believe the word of the Lord. You cannot sympathize with people that say Israel must be annihilated. They must be removed from the face of the earth. I mean, that is totally unacceptable. If it was not the communists or if it was not the terrorists, Hamas saying that, then the UN would have said something else. In South Africa, if you can say one tribe must be wiped out, the whole world will shout and scream at you. But now, when it comes to Israel, Hamas and the Palestinian Authority are saying they must be removed from the face of the earth. We refuse to recognize them. They are quiet about that. And so when they take revenge, they say that's disproportional. Okay, friends, we have to stand with Israel. As the world is against them, we need to, as faithful children of God, faithful servant of the Most High, and not traitors. We need to stand with Israel, and we need to stand with the truth of God's word. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to leave this one and come to our last shot. Now, DP. The last shot, the DP. We have the remaining 10 minutes. Tell us more about what's going to happen on Thursday. Now, maybe what I need to announce on Thursday, between 11 and 1, we are going to live stream what will be happening in Parliament when we will be signing the charter. I did interviews today about that, and some people are saying, but you are opposing the pact. Why are you now part of the pact? And I said, guys, we are not part of any pact. We are part of a group of people who wants to lay down rules. They are proposing, they are making rules that have to be observed by whatever parties will go into a coalition. So ACDP cannot say, make the rules for us, make the rules for us. No, no, no. And then when you are not happy with those rules, you complain. We want to be there. So that if rules are not going to favor us, we say, no, 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 no. This must be changed. This must be changed. It is not a coalition. So the DP, my honorable brother, is going to share with us more about that. He has been attending the meetings, but Thursday morning, we will be together in Parliament signing the charter. Why, DP, are we signing the charter? Please explain to our people.
Thank you, President. Well, let me just go back a bit. I maybe repeat myself, perhaps for those who were not a part of our discussions and attended and viewed our live streaming. The ACDP was really concerned when the Moonshot Pact was positioned and put out by the leader of the DA. We were concerned, one, because it came out from the elective conference. We were concerned because, secondly, there was no consultation. Political parties were not consulted. And then thirdly, there was an attack against another political party, calling that political party public enemy number one. President, you were the one who took on the leader of the DA and said that the ACDP has no enemies. We differ. We have political differences. Our worldview differs, but we don't have any enemies. We don't hate people. And so I think that you made that very clear. So we had some challenges with the Moonshot Pact, and the ACDP did not align itself to the Moonshot Pact. We did attend the discussions when other political parties were looking at going forward. We attended, but we attended as observers. When the multi-party charter was launched, the ACDP was not invited because they decided that no observers would be there. So we said, we're not going to gate crash. We will not go where we are not invited. When the charter was established, the multi-party charter was established, some of the leaders came to our leader, came to you, President, and then discussed the possibility of the ACDP joining the Moonshot Pact. President, you then obviously posed the questions in terms of our concerns. Number one, we were asked to join the multi-party charter, all right? So not the pact. So you asked the question, what about the Moonshot Pact? And you were told the Moonshot Pact is obsolete. The Moonshot Pact is dead. It doesn't exist. And there was a problem because the Moonshot Pact obviously was linked and tied to the DA. And this then would be seen to be a DA thing. The multi-party charter is not a DA mechanism. The multi-party charter is a coming together of some 7 to 8 political parties, putting their heads together to look at how can we best utilize our skills to ensure that service delivery comes to South Africa, to ensure that South Africa has a consistent stream of energy, secure energy supply, to ensure that we have food security, to ensure that our economy is strong, and so to ensure that we deal with the issue of crime. So these are the commonalities that we all had. We all wanted to see South Africa come out from where it currently is on the downward trajectory under the ANC, with everything failing. Almost every SOE is failing. Government is now calling the private sector to come and help and bail out SOEs. Government is calling the private sector to come and help also and give it ideas in terms of how to grow the economy. So government is clearly failing. So the Moonshot Pact is dead. This charter is about a framework, is about putting together a framework with regards to rules and systems and policies that should there be a coalition after 2024, then these are the rules. This is the framework that we could look at applying. And then President, obviously, with the experience as well that the political leaders have gained in their visit to Germany, that particular experience only adds impetus to the charter and to the framework and the rules and the policies that have been put in place. Now, when President, you were asked to come and join, you asked the questions, you sought clarity. We then brought this to the NEC. We discussed it in the NEC, and the National Executive Committee took a decision. Yes, let's now join the charter. So after we took that decision, the date has now been set, which is tomorrow, where the signing will take place. It will be in Cape Town, I believe, at Parliament, where the signing will take place. And President, yourself, I will be there. Some of our other ACDP members will be there. to witness the signing. And this, in essence, is the background to where we are with regards to the multi-party charter. Remember, the ACDP has also consistently said that we will not form a coalition before election. So this is not a coalition. This is a coming together of political parties to put together a framework, guidelines with regards to what would take place post-2024. And so post-2024, the ACDP will re-examine and look to see what is the best option for the ACDP post-2024, and we will inform our members once that particular bridge has to be crossed. So, President, I trust that that was informative, and I've covered all of the ground that needed to be covered in terms of where we are. But let me also say that there's lots of negotiations that takes place behind the scenes, so lots of talks. Our last talk lasted until 1 o'clock in the morning, and so we ask also that you continue to pray for these particular processes, so that the wisdom of God prevails in these particular discussions.
Thank you very much, sir. It is true that we appeal to you, brothers and sisters, to keep us in prayer, because what we want is what will be in the best interest of your children and children's children and the nation at large. We are not promoting anything that will make the country sink, but we are promoting what will make this country a model nation among nations of the world. We thank you for your support, and those who were given the question, should we sign the charter? Should we be part of that? And you were consulted. The majority said, go for it. Laws are going to be made. Rules are going to be made. Guidelines are going to be drafted. So please be part of that to ensure that the guidelines that are decided upon, they favor us, they do not disfavor us. Now, one of the advices we got again in Germany was that distancing yourself from what is going to impact you is not wisdom. And I want to say to you tonight, if a person says, no, the price of petrol is going to be discussed, I don't want to be part of that discussion, and petrol is 7 times worse or more expensive, then you complain, this is not fair, when you should have been there. So when issues that are going to impact on you are discussed, do yourself a favor, be there and make sure that decisions favor you, decisions favor you. So the Lord bless you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us today. I trust that the program tonight was very informative. Your support, your prayers, your participation is valued highly. Continue supporting us. JJ Scholes, all the way from Mpumalanga, says, excellent presentation tonight. Baya Dangi Menier, the president. Baya Dangi Menier Scholes, the Eurasian, Dotsins, Legerslap, Robalang Hantle Bahaitsu, Lalangache, Nkulugulan Busis.